Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, Melissa's Cozy Corner. If you don't know who I am, my name is Melissa, and I'm super excited for today's video. I love the fall season because it represents change, it represents color, and it's just so beautiful. And the smell to me is just absolutely fantastic. I know this season can be difficult for some. Some people are more spring, summer people instead of fall, winter, but I do hope that this video and all of the rest of my videos for fall are just gonna make your heart cozy and warm and happy, and we'll just take on the season together, either if you love it or if you're just still trying to get used to it. So I figured in today's video, I'd just give a bunch of different recommendations for books or activities, indoor and outdoor activities, some movies or shows that I love watching during the season, and also some delicious treats we can make inside the kitchen, savory and sweet. So I really hope you're excited for this video because I'm excited to share all of my recommendations. I have a bunch of different activities I'm excited to do with you guys also this year, and I'm just really excited. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I figured we'll go ahead and start talking about some dishes in the kitchen that are savory and sweet that I highly recommend. So for me, I'm a pie girl. I love pie. I will make pie all year long, and I crave pumpkin pie all year long. But this season is perfect for your apple pie, your pumpkin pie, pecan pie, but I also like making a bunch of other different types of quiches. So we have a lot of those broccoli quiches or very warm and cozy quiches. One of my favorite things to do is actually an oven-baked vegetable sheet pan. It's just adding a bunch of vegetables onto a sheet pan, turning the heat up really high and cooking everything until it's nice and soft. For us, we love adding pumpkin or squash, so it's very fall-y. We add thyme and rosemary in there as well, and it smells so delightful and so warm and cozy. So I figured this season we're going to be trying out a couple new dishes, savory and sweet, so don't worry for those people who don't love sweet things. But I do have to say, I love baking. I'm a baker, so sweet is normally where I lean to. But don't worry, we'll be trying some savory dishes as well this year. Some pumpkin, I'm thinking we're going to do some pumpkin chili. I saw a recipe for it the other day and I was like, ooh, that sounds really good. With that though, I figured I would also share two of my favorite things during the season I make. I make a vanilla extract. I do highly recommend making this actually at the beginning of summer. So if you haven't made it yet, I'm sorry. I should have mentioned it way beforehand, but homemade vanilla extract I love doing, mostly because it's quite difficult to get here in Germany, but making it homemade, you can really get that nice vanilla extract flavor, and I make mine with vodka or whiskey. You can also do it with rum, but I'll go ahead and share that at the very end of this video, so if you're interested in how to make your own vanilla extract, you can find it at the end of this video. I'll also be making my homemade pumpkin spice seasoning. This is needed for almost every bake, hot cocoa, overnight oats. I use this stuff in everything during this season. It's one of my go-to spice mixes. I know you can buy a kind of a container at the grocery store in the US, but I make my own because I like mine to have a little bit more spice in it. So I like a little bit more ginger and a little bit more clove to get it really kind of like warm. So if you're interested in how to make your own pumpkin spice mix, go ahead and wait to the end of this video. I'll show how I make that as well. But for the most part, we're going to be making so many different types of dishes, sweet and savory like I said. If you have any recommendations on what you want to try making this year, I would love to hear it in the comments below. We'll go ahead and either try making it together, or I'll go ahead and make it on a video and show you how it goes. But really, I love baking and cooking during this time of year because we can turn on the oven without roasting in the apartment. And I love the smells that come from the kitchen because you have not just the warm coziness of the candles that you've lit or even just the lights you've turned on, like the little fairy lights, but the smell that comes from the kitchen during this time of year is always warm and cozy because you have that nice seasoning. So you have the cloves and the ginger and the chilies, if you really like chili. I love chili during this time of year, so I actually eat kind of spicy this time of year. And I'm not a spicy girl. I don't like spice in my food, but during this time of year, I like eating a big bowl of chili with some bread and enjoying the nice warmth of that. So I figured we're gonna be making a bunch of tasty dishes this year, and I would love to hear what you're making as well. So that's kind of the food topics. Like I said, I'll go ahead and show you how to make vanilla extract and my pumpkin pie spice mix at the very end of this video. But we'll go ahead and jump right into books, because I like talking about books. So I figured we'll talk about some books that I've read and I highly recommend during the early fall season. Later on in October, I'll be talking about witchy books, so books that deal with more witchy kind of atmosphere, witch characters, and so on. But for this time, I think I'm just gonna focus on early fall books that I think are warm and cozy and perfect for the beginning of the season. And this will range from horror-y type books, my type of horror, so light horror, and then also just super, super cozy. I also have some recommendations for books I have not read yet, so I guess they're not really recommendations, but they're books I'm really looking forward to reading. So I'll mention those as well, so that way maybe we can read them together. So let's go ahead and jump into books that I've already read. There's actually one I'm currently reading, so kind of read and reading books. And I think one book, of course, that I have to recommend, it's almost like I'm required to recommend this book, even though I read it in spring. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is the coziest book I've ever stepped into. If you're looking for a book that's cozy and comfy and folly, that's the description of this. We follow this character Viv, who ends up opening her own cafe. She's a retired bounty hunter and she's an ogre, so this is a fantasy novel, but a very, very light fantasy novel. And she opens up her own coffee shop, she makes friends, she has some things that she runs into, some problems she runs into, but the coffee shop she builds is just the definition of cozy coffee. So I really highly recommend this one. I know this one was a big one for last year, but if you haven't picked this one up, I highly, highly recommend. This is probably the top recommendation I have for this video. Another book I recommend that's a little bit more atmospheric. It's very dark in the sense of the atmosphere, and it's kind of a mystery novel. It's Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. Miss England is about a woman who ends up taking a job as a nanny or a nursemaid. So she takes care of the children for this family who lives in the middle of nowhere. And it's kind of uncomfortable, it's kind of mysterious, and everything seems just slightly off, and we're not really sure why it's off. So I highly recommend this one. This is definitely an eerie novel. You feel a little uncomfortable, it's kind of funky, but I actually really like this one. I was drawn into the story, and during the whole entire story, I was trying to figure out how all the pieces fit together, what was actually really happening, and the grounds are foggy and everything's just kind of spooky and uncomfortable. So if you're looking for kind of a mystery, spooky book to read, I would highly recommend Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. Some books that I think are kind of funny to recommend. The only reason I'm recommending these are because Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin talked about them so often that I was like, okay, I have to grab them. And that's Goosebumps. And I know, these are not adult books, these are middle grade books, but these are just a fun read. Like if you have a dark and stormy night and you're thinking, I want to read a book, but I don't have the time to finish a book maybe, or I don't want to be invested in something for too long, or you just want something kind of creepy and crawly to read for a night while it's stormy and dark outside, I highly recommend Goosebumps. I finished The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight a couple weeks ago, I think, and it was a delightful read. It's nothing spectacular, it's not gonna blow your mind, but they're quick reads that you can read in just like an hour or two, and you can enjoy them, and they're just really perfect for that spooky season of fall where it's just dark and gloomy and cloudy and you want to get a little scary, but not actually terribly scary. So I ordered a bunch, like 10 of these on Amazon, and they're just an assortment of different Goosebumps books. And yeah, so if you're looking for just like a really quick read that's going to be spooky and fun, Goosebumps is the way to go. One book that I'm currently reading is actually One book I'm currently reading is The London Seance Society by Sarah Penner. So this is one that I just currently picked up and I started reading it, and it does have that eerie atmosphere. It's about seances, and we start off a young woman who is learning how to conduct seances from the master seance woman, and she's trying to figure out how to become somebody who can conduct a seance because she wants to be able to communicate with her sister who has recently died. This is not a spoiler, this happens within the first chapter, but we are following this character wanting to become somebody who can speak with the dead. So it's kind of ghosty, it's kind of eerie. I would say it's historical magical realism. So we have a lot of stuff that's following like historical ideas, but of course we have magical realism in there because we are following these ghost stories. I've just started it. I'm only about 50 pages into it, but I actually am finding it quite enjoyable. I find the story interesting. There are different perspectives in this book, and perspectives, when we're jumping between perspectives, I kind of lose interest in one of them. That's always how I feel when I'm reading books that have multiple perspectives. I have the tendency to enjoy one more than the other, so I get frustrated when I have to read the other one that I'm not as interested in. I'm sure, I hope I'm not the only one. If you also feel that way, I would love to know, so I know I'm not alone. But sometimes different perspectives really do work. I'm curious as to how this one's gonna go. Like I said, I've only just started it, so I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel. But for the most part, I'm 50 pages in, find it interesting, and I would recommend it so far. I'll go ahead and update you after I finish it though. So those are the kind of books that I actually recommend reading at the beginning of fall. So just a couple, so we're not getting too, so you're not putting too many books on your Amazon wish list. So now for the books that I haven't actually read yet, and I do want to read this fall. I'm going to try to read them this fall. These are books I think I find interesting and have put them on my want to read list. One of them I actually currently have, and that's Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I've heard a lot about this book. I've heard it's actually spooky and dark. I read the first couple pages and found it spooky and dark. I actually don't know very much about this book. I haven't heard, and I decided not to hear much about it because I wanted to kind of be surprised of it. But on the back there was one sentence that caught my interest, and it was, on her quest, Mara? We're gonna say Mara. Mara is joined by a grave witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon. And that's all I read, and I said, chicken possessed by a demon? I'm sold. So I'm going to be reading this one this fall. I think this one's going to be my next one I'm going to pick up. Actually, I was waiting for it to get a little bit dark, a little bit more spooky outside to get into the spooky mood. The next book I'm looking forward to read is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. Again, I try not to look too much into the books that I'm wanting to read. I don't want to be spoiled in the sense of not spoiled by somebody telling me a piece of the story, but I kind of like jumping into books without knowing much that's going to happen. So this one, I understand, has ghosts in it. I wasn't actually sure if it was going to be a fall read or not, but from the things I have read and the things I have heard, it does have the ghosty feels. It does have that kind of fall feeling in it. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. I haven't read anything by T.J. Klune yet, and I've heard great things about their writing. So this one's definitely one I'm looking forward to reading. I don't think I need a dark atmosphere for this one. It's just something I'm looking forward to reading. I know this book is about a ghost, and it's about their life, what they have accomplished, and deciding on if it was enough. At least I think so. I could be wrong, and it's okay if I am, because then I'm jumping into a book and being surprised. The next one I'm really looking forward to reading, and I haven't read yet, and I know a lot of people haven't read it, but a lot of people have though, is Dracula. And I know this is going to be my October book. I know I'm going to not love it. I don't know if I'm going to love it, but I know I'm going to love that I read it, and that's the most important part. So I'm really excited to read this one, and I just love how it looks. I showed this in my fall emergency kit video I did last week, And I just love this book so much, and that's why I keep showing it, because it's just so beautiful. And the last book I'm looking at wanting to read, My Roommate is a Vampire by Gina Levine. The only thing I know about this book is her roommate is a vampire. Again, like I said, I don't know much about these books I haven't read. I am just jumping in, hoping I'm gonna love them. That's how I read my books, is I grab them and hope they're gonna be good. So sometimes I buy them off of cover, sometimes I buy them off a title, sometimes I just pick them off the bookshelf and say, hey, I'm gonna try reading this one. And so this one I have not bought yet, but I was scrolling through books to read during fall, and this is one of the ones that popped up, and I thought the title was very funny. So I'm imagining she finds out that her roommate is a vampire, and that's all I know. So these are some books I highly recommend for fall, and then also some books that I'm really looking forward to read during this early fall season. So I'm hoping to read it in September and just really enjoy some books. However, Dracula's October. I've decided Dracula will be October. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some activities that I think are going to be perfect for fall. Some of these activities are indoor activities and some of them are outdoor activities. I figured what I'm going to do this year is every second video, I'm going to be doing a craft of some sort. Some of these crafts involve painting leaves or carving pumpkins. I've also looked at making a broomstick for month of October, because October is going to be my witchy month. So instead of just having one day where I'm going to be witch, October 31st, I figured all of October will be my witchy month. So I'm going to just really embrace my witchy heart and my witchy month. And then I figured we can make a broomstick. I figured we could also do, I've been seeing this TikTok trend or Instagram trend everywhere where people buy old paintings or old photos from secondhand shops and then paint ghosts on them. I think that's super cute and cool. So I figured we'll do that this year as well. I'm sure you've seen the ghosts behind me, and I have just been crocheting so many ghosts. I have a problem, but if you follow me on Instagram, I've been making so many ghosts because I want to create a miniature army and then hang them up in my apartment. So I've gotten a couple now. They're all different sizes. And I figured once I get enough, I'll go ahead and hang them up around the apartment, maybe in front of our TV, not in front of the TV, but around our TV. So we have a little ghosty collection of crocheted ghosts. There's also a turtle that has like a pumpkin pie shell that I'm really interested in making, and a bunch of other crocheted patterns I've seen online. I've just picked up crocheting, so it's not something I can say I'm really good at. I made this guy on accident, and I've just kept him. He's a little weird, but I love him. And now I have another weird little creature. So I've just started crocheting, but I figured we can make some more crocheted activities and look at some online and many, many other things. There are so many fun fall crafts that I think are gonna be perfect for this time of year. But outdoor activities, I love the idea of doing a picnic when it's foggy outside. So doing a foggy outdoor picnic. Also going to a pumpkin patch or apple orchard. I will be going to the US in October, so I'm really, really looking forward to going to my favorite pumpkin patch I went to for years before moving to Germany. And I will definitely be sharing that adventure. But going to a pumpkin patch or going to an apple orchard to pick your own apples, picking your own apples is just really fun and delightful. Going for a hike and collecting leaves and pressing leaves at home. I did that last year and I found it really enjoyable in trying to determine what leaves I found. And then now this year I can paint some of those leaves with beautiful pictures. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. I also found, I'm sure you found the picture, or saw the picture, but I'll show it again. I also found these cute little black painted leaves that look like bats, and I love that idea, so I think I'm going to do that this year as well. And I think it's also during fall is a perfect time to fly a kite because it's a little bit colder outside, so you're not sitting in the sun, but you're able to enjoy the nice cool wind, maybe in the fog with the leaves falling around and your kite flying in the air. I've never flown a kite. I wanted to do it this year at some point, and I think I'm going to do it this fall. I think I'm going to try to fit it in at some point this fall. But there are a lot of fun activities to do outside during this time of year. I know it is a little bit colder, but it's perfect to put on a nice, beautiful, fun, cozy sweater, put on a long pair of pants or a cute skirt with some tights underneath, and going for a walk through the woods even and feeling the leaves crunch underneath your feet, or just listening to the birds, because the birds are going to be a lot louder now because they're flying around collecting the bugs because it's going to be a little bit cooler outside, so now they're actually going to be out during the day. And I think there's just so many fun activities to do during this fall, and I'll keep sharing them throughout all of my videos. But those are some few ideas that I think we could all try to fit into our enjoying fall list this year. And to end this video, we'll go ahead and talk about some movies and shows that I love watching during this time. These are just some cozy, comfy movies and shows I do really enjoy watching during this time of year. These are more early fall shows. I will go ahead and share some witchy stuff, like I said, in October. But for the beginning of fall, I really enjoy Fantastic Mr. Fox. I watched this for the first time a couple years ago and fell in love with it. This is the cutest movie ever, and so I really enjoyed it, and I really highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It is a little bit different, but it is also a joy to watch. Sleepy Hollow is perfect for that spooky evening, so if you don't have goosebumps, then you can watch Sleepy Hollow instead. Light some candles or turn on some fairy lights and enjoy that spooky atmosphere. And it's also kind of funny too, because our main character is just kind of goofy and kind of awkward, and it's an enjoyable film. It is a little creepy though, so if you're not into creepy, bloody stuff, I would recommend not watching that one, but it is fun for that kind of ghosty, spooky atmosphere. Another one that I find fun is Clue. It's our classic mystery, so if you're looking for just a classic mystery, I highly recommend watching Clue. Knives Out is actually another one that's your classic mystery. It was a lot of fun to watch. I watched it a couple years ago and I've been thinking about it a lot now, so I think that's another one I'm going to be putting on this fall. But it's your mystery, funky, funny, just wacky film that's fun to watch during this time of year. And two series I highly recommend is the series of Unfortunate Events. Weird, uncomfortable feels throughout the whole entire movie. You have a great atmosphere, and it's a really good, enjoyable watch. If you didn't read the books when you were younger or haven't read the books at all, I do recommend them, but the show was actually just really good on its own. I think the show is worth watching even if you've never read the books, because it's such an enjoyable, fun show. And then also Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks I watched for the first time this year, which is kind of surprising because I grew up where it's based at, and not too far from it at least, and it is so funky. You have a murder that happens in this small town. You follow the investigation. You try to figure out who murdered the victim, and it's more surprising every episode you watch. And it's beautiful because it takes place in Washington, my home state, and you have the fog that just rolls over everything, and the forests, and the classic Washington rain all the time, and it's just a really weird show. But I highly recommend it. I think it's a fun watch, and it's a great murder mystery show as well. You'll be questioning everything that's happening, and that's what makes it so enjoyable to watch. Those are all of my movies and shows I recommend for early fall. I know I mentioned quite a few. Of course, you don't have to watch them all right now, but I think they're really fun to kind of stick on and enjoy while you're doing a craft, or maybe making cookies or dinner, and just enjoying a nice fall evening. Now, we've gone over all of the fall recommendations I can think of. For early fall, I'll go ahead and show you the vanilla extract and pumpkin spice mix that I make right now. I know that was a lot, and I do hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed all these recommendations and all of these fun activities. These are a lot of the things I'm planning to do this fall, so if you're wanting to do any of them with me, I would love to know. Or if you're planning to do any activities or creative fun stuff, or what books you're reading, or what shows you recommend, or movies, I would love to know what you have as a recommendation to enjoy this wonderful season. And next week, we're gonna be jumping into some delicious treats, some fun books, and some fun activities. So until next week, you guys, I hope you have a fantastic day. Enjoy the beginning of your September, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao!